How to make the most money from property in 2025. Let's start off with the most obvious strategy and one of my favorites, boring, vanilla buy-to-let properties. So buy-to-lets, you can either buy them out in good areas and rent them out, obviously, or you can buy it, refurbish it, and refinance, or the BRRRR method. And you see this a lot, people going like, buy, refurb, refinance, rent it, repeat. It's just buying a property, doing it up, adding some value, and refinancing. Now, it's important to understand that gone are the days that you're going to get all of your money out on a repeatable basis. And so for me, if you're doing buy-to-lets, you're much better actually finding a great value property in a great area at a fair price rather than getting a shit property in a shit area at a cheap price. And Warren Buffett says this really well about buying businesses. He'd rather get a great business at a fair price rather than a fair business at a great price. Price is what you pay, value is what you get. Stop getting caught up on short-term profits instead of long-term returns. You get a good buy-to-let, you will triple your investment over a 10-year period. That is a 200% profit over 10 years. I hear what you're saying. Jamie, that's going to use a lot of my money up very quickly. So what can I do in between? Well, I like to think of chunky cash. So my long-term wealth, my slow money is going to be in the buy-to-let, but I want some chunks of change coming in. And one of those is going to be flips. So the most common one is buying, refurbishing, and selling property, which again is a great strategy. However, I'd be very cautious of it in 2025. And that's because of two reasons. Number one, interest rate fluctuations. Interest rates are all over the shop a little bit, so you don't know what your cost of finance is going to be. But also because the market is moving and contracting quite a lot because of all of the changes out there right now, it can cause some uncertainty on that exit price. So I really think it's good to be smart. So how can you do flips without the risk? Which brings me on to strategy number 3, assisted sales. You've heard of buy, refurbish, and sell. This is don't buy, refurbish, and sell. So an assisted sale, there's a lot of tax strategies to it because you're not buying the property as such, so you don't pay stamp duty. The other thing that you don't pay is huge cost of finance on buying the property, etc. So you make an agreement with the vendor moves out the property, you do the works to the property, and you sell the property at a profit. For example, let's say my mate Gladys is in the house, she wants 300,000 for a property, but I know that I need to put 30 grand into it for it to be worth 400, for example. Well, I could buy it for 300, which will come with like 10 grand plus of stamp duty, then put 30 grand into it, then the cost of the holding period, plus the cost of finance, everything else. The profit margin actually wouldn't be that big. Or I could say to Gladys, here's 5 grand, move out, go down the road, I'll do the work on the property, sell it, pay you 300 grand from the proceeds of sale, pay my 35 grand back with low cost of finance, no stamp duty, no holding period cost at all, and I make the profit. That is called an assisted sale and is going to be a big one in 2025. I've got some more strategies that I absolutely love, ending with my number 1 guidance on what strategy is best, so make sure to hang around. But if you're looking to get educated on this properly and you're ready to invest in yourself and make the best of this window of opportunity, put education in the comments. I'm going to send you a link and give you a free one-to-one strategy session. Another big one is social housing. So social housing you need to be very careful with, and a lot of people do rent to social housing, and to be honest, I'll probably do a couple of videos on this because a few of them are big fraud cases and gone bust factually. Not going to get sued for that, so it is factual now. I'll do some videos on that to break down. In fact, let me know with social housing in the comments, and if enough of you comment there, I'll see what I can do, because you can do it the right way and the wrong way. But you could do rent social housing where you can rent out somebody's house as a whole. Let's say a 4-bed house with 2 reception rooms and they're boxed off. You can rent that for £1,000, for example, and then you can rent out the individual rooms on something called an FRI lease. An FRI lease is a full repairing and insuring lease, and you can rent that out for around 2 grand a month, all bills covered by them. So it's a really nice cash flowing strategy, and if you mix this with the last strategy that I'm going to mention, you can actually get the cash flow and the capital growth. So stay to the end for that. The main thing with social housing, though, is you need to make sure that you're remembering that you are housing vulnerable individuals. Yes, there's a lot of money, but make sure you're actually doing this for the right reason. There's a lot of providers out there just trying to rinse the movement rather than actually being focused on the individuals. If you want a bit of a higher risk strategy, but can be really, really good, you can go to serviced accommodation. So you'll hear this a lot: booking.com properties, Airbnbs, holiday lets, short-term lets. Essentially, you have guests instead of tenants, and instead of them paying by the month or the year, they pay by the night. Yes, often this is people on weekends, but it could be there's a lot of development in your area and the hotels get absolutely packed during the week. What a lot of these construction companies do will rent out properties by the day. It's really great. It's a lot of profit in there, and you can supercharge this through rent to rents, where you rent the property and then rent out the individual unit, or you can actually buy it. In general, I'm going to give you some quick tips. First of all, do not take people's word for it. It is very unlikely you're going to net 1,000 a month every single month. It rarely actually happens. Number two, factor in a decline in the winter months and think strategically about what you can do with the property during the winter months to maximize that rental return. And number three, people are going to trash the property, so you need to make sure you're doing the right stuff. But in general, if you could get a property that is break even at about 50 to 55% occupancy, you'll probably be good all year round. My favorite strategy for 2025 is going to be something called lease options. So a lease option is 3 core contracts: power of attorney, and what that does is it gives you power to have a chat with the bank, and also if the owner of the property dies, the rights that you have are linked to the property, not the individual. The next is a management agreement. Think of that as a rental agreement, but instead of you being a letting agent going, I'm going to charge you 10%, it's a management agreement that essentially says, I will pay you X on a monthly basis, usually enough to cover the mortgage, and anything that I get above that from renting it out to a tenant, I get that money. Kind of like a rent to rent agreement looks like. So I'll pay you this, I'll get Y, and I make the money in the middle. And then the final piece of a lease option is the option agreement. So a lease option is the terminology that we use, but there's nothing actually called a lease option agreement. It's power of attorney, management agreement, and the option. And the option is the powerful bit. It gives you the right but not the obligation to buy the property at a price agreed today at any point between now and a predetermined point in time. Let's say the property is worth 100 grand today, but it's got a mortgage on it of 100 grand. They're not going to get any money. But you said, tell you what, I will buy this property from you between now and 10 years from now for 115,000. And they go, do you know what? That sounds good. So say they've got 15 years left on the mortgage. They can do that agreement. You say, look, between now and 10 years from now, I'll pay for your mortgage. You can walk away. I'll babysit the mortgage, pay for everything. In return, I'll look after everything in the meantime. I get to rent out the property. I get you paid that, and anything I make in the middle is for me to keep. That's my risk and my profit reward. And at any point between now and then, I will buy your property for 115,000, I think. So it gives you the right but not the obligation. Remember that. What's the likeliness in 10 years that property's not going to be worth 115 grand? It's not going to happen. However, why is it important? It de-risks you because you can walk away from the property. Let's say in 10 years it's worth 200,000. Well, I can still buy it at 115, or I can actually list a property, sell it for 200,000 and make the 85 grand in my pocket, no questions asked. And in the meantime, I've made all of that profit. Why do lease options come available? Well, often it's because of fluctuations in the market. And the big thing, or big 3 things, number 1, labor doesn't really help too much. And this isn't a political video, it's just factual. Number 2 is the stamp duty changes. So they made a bit of a wild, stamp duty is going up 2% as of tomorrow. Cheers, Starmer. Nice one. Good lad. But what they didn't tell you is that at the end of March, it's happening again. When the vendor's left with this choice where there's extra motivation there, they need to exit the property, that's either going to be on price or terms. And what that means is either they're going to have to sell the property at a discount, or we can end up buying it at some point in the future. If we really want to take advantage of this window of opportunity, get educated. And yes, I've got a vested interest. And if you want me to educate you personally, put education in the comments, no obligation. I'll send you a link. You can have a one-to-one strategy session for free. And if we're right for each other, great. If not, that's cool as well. But even if it's not me, just get educated around this. You need to be primed and get yourself in the best position. You not knowing how to make £1 million in 2025 is costing you £1 million. And it's that absence of knowledge that is costing you. So don't go into this opportunity through ignorance, go through education, and make sure you're getting educated by whoever you align with best. And if that is me, put education, but if it's somebody else, that's great. Finally, how do we do all of this with zero risk? deal packaging. Deal packaging is where you create a service around this for other people. And the core of my business is a deal packaging business. And we do between 300,000 and $500,000 a month on that. So we do it in a pretty big way. And what we do is essentially charge a fee for finding this opportunity for other individuals. And we get paid for that. And so it helps build other people's wealth whilst us getting in that cycle of being around money a lot, being around great deals and being able to match them together. And so if you are at the beginning of your journey, it can really be a great learning experience, networking experience, and financial experience to deal package the strategy that you're looking to get into. Therefore, building your cash pot. What can you do with that? Don't spunk it. Reinvest it into the deal. So if you want to have a chat about that, as I said, education in the comments. Let me know if you found value in this video. It's just a bit of a quick sticks going through my 2025, what I'm going to be focusing on in particular. If you're new to the channel, make sure to hit the subscribe and the notification bell. And if you did get value, make sure to hit the like button, and I'll see you in the next video.